Good Voch Rabbi Sai. Lili Nishmasi Mimura Sirus Bas Mordechai. Welcome to all the guests. We have a new recruit here. What's your name? Mendel Myers. He's a one-day-old recruit. We have here a very, very chashuv guest. What's your name, Rabbi? Eliezer Kessler from Houston, Texas. Been with us from Brachas, Daf, Dalid. Unbelievable. Shalom Aleichem. Thank you so much for coming. His father also watches the Daf every day, but his father didn't want to come. Why not? He likes it. He's used to it. You know, people when they come here, they say, well, you speak so slow. I'm used to it on a 1.5 speed. So Yishkar for coming. And I want to make a, maybe together we could try to get your brother to come back to the Daf. Okay. What's his name? Aaron, you got to come back. You see, a lot of people fell off in Yavamas. But they're coming back. Kesubos is Gishmak Moed. My two sons fell off in Yavamas. One of them, Elazar Menachem, is back. So we're happy to have him. We're happy to have all the guys that are coming back. And tell the guys, come back. No, it's different. Who else do we have here? What's your name, Tzaddik? Shalom Samuel. Shalom Samuel.
I grew up Yosef's dad.
Oh, everybody knows Yosef Viliak. Everybody. So you're from England, obviously. Givaldic. Who else do we have here? The other was hiding. I see some guys hiding. The guys that are hiding, I'm not going to embarrass you, Barabim. Okay, good. There's a spot over there. Are you from Just say, are you from Borough Park? No way! The corner spot. That's where every Borough Parker sits. That's whatever you do. I'm not going to, okay, you don't want to be. Pini Simcha Hayev. Shalom Avracha. My name is Paltiel. Paltiel Simcha from Fresh Meadows, Queens. I want to share with you how I was introduced to MDY Mamish Hashgacha. I'm 25 years old and started my own custom-made suit company 2 years ago, Paltiel and Company. Provide services, goes to the customer's house, measures them. The last step is to ask the customer if he wants anything embroidered in the suit. Names, initial. The customer was thinking for a while. He said he wants to do something cool. Finally he says, I want my initials, but MDY at the end. Now I don't pry, I don't ever ask customers what they choose to write, but he asked me, you heard of MDY, right? I said, no. He said, it's an amazing Daf Yomi class, blah, blah, blah. After a few weeks, he received the suit. Everything was perfect, happy. That's not all. This past Wednesday evening, July 27th, I was catching up with a few friends at Regal Park, Queens, and decided to grab a bite at a nearby fast food place. And there's a man, the most dangerous man in New York, Refuah, a.k.a. the Refuah the Barber. And a few Gemaras in his hand, giving them out for free and asking to sign off to the Daf Yomi. In my mind, I thought better for someone else to have a free Gemara. I was also afraid to take it and not commit to the 7-day Daf Yomi. So I walked past this guy and then he entered the restaurant. Placing my order, I turned to see my two friends with the Gemaras in their hands already, signed up to the process. I come out and they told me, let's do it together. Refuah started explaining more and he said, MDY Daf Yomi, and then it hit me. I've heard it somewhere before. Why does MDY sound familiar? Then he tied it all together. Now I was also supposed to be going, he says like this, another Hashgacha. I didn't realize this. I wasn't even supposed to be going to this fast food restaurant. I wanted to go to one closer to my house in Fresh Meadows. But Hashem had other plans. That is my story. Shabbat Shalom. Here are the pictures, Rabbi Sai. I got this picture from somebody else also, from Yochanan Itzkowitz. This is what Refuah does on his vacation, because Refuah is somewhere else. He's not he's in Queens, like in the Five Towns kind of. Here he is, Avi, Paltiel, Michael at the burger spot. He needs volume 2. It says, P.S. He needs volume 2 to give out. I'm the one, and then I combine two things. I'm the one holding the Dr. Pepper can. That's the one that had the Hashgacha Pratis. On the left, Michael Amin Zaid, something like that, 28, single. With the Rav's bracha. Hashem should help him find the zivug very soon. Why are you guys laughing? With the mask, the holy tzaddik Refuah Bareyev. By the way, I was thinking, it's also Hashgacha. On Shabbos, I was thinking to myself, I feel bad because the other day when I said, don't wait for, I think it was Erev Shabbos, I said, go out and grab somebody. Don't wait for Paris Chaim Levin to do it. And I forgot about Refuah Bar. He's holding already like 250 recruits. You think he's a recruiter? 250, probably more. Probably in the 300s already. The tall one, Avram Yonatanov, 28. Oh no, that's the one. Okay, fine. Great. Next. Here's the suit, Rabbi said, with the MDY initials. Can't see? Oh, here it is. Hi, Rebelli, our 14-year-old Shuli is away in Camp Matziv in Michigan. By the way, I believe Camp Matziv in Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, that's where Eitan O'Garrick is our own Eitan O'Garrick is the chef. I believe. This picture was taken doing the daf with Rebelli, MDY. He was so insistent that he not miss a day of the daf and he get all kinds of clearances from the camp to send a tablet, not the MDY one. Sad face with him to keep in the office. We are very proud of him. So grateful that you're attracting so many people to Torah in this year. I now need to send his care package, Ami MDY edition. It's unbelievable. Mamish Nachas. In camp, they're doing the daf. Hi Rebelli, I've been doing the daf with my 12-year-old son since Moed Katan. My son has also inspired 2 boys in his class to join the daf. This is also amazing. Father and son time, like you. Just you're not 12 years old. And then he sent me a video of his 2-year-old son yelling "Good morning, Rabbi Isai," which it didn't go through. Some of these videos, if it's not, this computer doesn't recognize it. We never even knew he was paying attention to us learning, and that's the beauty of it. If you learn Torah in your house, you don't know who picks up on what. The little kid, the 2-year-old kid, is picking it up. Thank you so much for all you do. You and your family should continue having bracha, hatzlacha in all your endeavors. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Yossi and Moshe Farkas. But if we do that, let's do it in a second. Because if we do it now, it's going to mess everything up here. Okay. Rabbi Isai, the Parnas HaChodesh for the Koilel, which is a $10,000 sponsorship, is by Mr. Anonymous, the zchus, all the new guys that joined Kesubos, including yourself, Tzaddik. Mesechta is sponsored, Lili Nishmas Moshe Elazar ben Nata Shalom, Lili Nishmas Yosef Baruch ben Moshe Aaron, and for that hatzlacha b'chol Yankel for my children. The second sponsor of the Mesechta is Jeff Rosner, zchus my son, Yosef Simcha Chaim ben Sara Klein, Refuah Shlaima. Parnas HaChodesh by the Lock and Lebovic families, Lakewood NJ, because Torah is the best segula. That guy, that Paltiel and company, is not going to like the fact that the Locks also have their own. Well, I guess it's good to have competition. Shragi Chafetz RL149 is zchus for my family and myself, and for the Tzaddikim of RL Hatzalah. Parnas HaChodesh number 3. Eli Nishma ben Moshe. Parnas HaChodesh number 4. Benjy Estie Israel and Family. In memory of our Zayde Moshe Menora and 3 cousins, Sara Klein, Ricki Racheli Menora, on their 12th yard side, the Neshama should all have an aliyah. Terrible, terrible tragedy that happened in Chicago. Moshe Menora, I said this last year, I'll say it again. He was taking off in his privately owned plane, and it didn't really go as planned, and the plane crashed on takeoff, and 3 of his grandchildren were nifter. One survived. I saw him. Yeah, one survived. That was a terrible tragedy. Benjy Estie actually bought my home in Lincolnwood, so we're very close. And the neshama should have an aliyah. Happens to be that also means that 12 years ago was the last day I flew, because my plane and Moshe Menora's plane parked together in Milwaukee, and when I saw my wife's fear in her face and the tsar that the community had, I made the decision not to fly again. So, okay, the neshama should have an aliyah. Rabbi Isai, we're starting from, we could change this out. So we're starting from the Mishnah, Daf Yomi Amud Beis. And the official Mishnah is sponsored by Yankel Cohen for hatzlacha with Limanat Torah and Parnasa. V'chein Shnei Anoshim. So we're talking about an emunos of people. If we can trust one person testifying about another person. So the Mishnah says we also have something similar. And actually the Gemara is going to discuss about all the Mishnayos we just learned and put them all together, do a quick review. A Kohen wants to testify about himself. Now, he testifies he's a Kohen. His friend testifies that he himself is a Kohen. Einon ne'emanim. They're not believed. Why would a Kohen, what does a Kohen benefit from being a Kohen? Well, first of all, you get Truma. Second of all, you get Kohen, you get an Aliyah, you get the first one. And you do Birkas Kohanim. If there's Beis HaMikdash, even Bizman Hazeh. I myself heard a guy say, I'm not kidding, guy was a Baal Tshuva, he was saying that he really, when he became Baal Tshuva, he really, really wanted to be a Kohen. So he asked his father says, yeah, we're Kohanim. So he's a Kohen. So you got to be careful. I mean, it's not we need emunah here. If they point to each other. Reuven says Shimon is a Kohen. Shimon says Reuven is a Kohen. We trust even an Eid Echad, one Eid, and we're not concerned about Goimlin. Here, Shas Katan, a new concept called Goimlin. What's Goimlin? Goimlin is collusion. We're not concerned that Reuven is testifying for Shimon because Reuven really wants to be a Kohen. It's Gishmak. Everywhere you go. It's interesting that in this base medrash, last week we had close to 50 people in the second chakras and not a single Kohen.
How many Levium?
We had 10 in the first.
10 Kohen in the first.
How many Levium?
I don't know. You weren't there, so you don't count. Then we have Gersh in every single, so we definitely have, there's a bunch of Levium. In Deal, New Jersey, for instance, I would say a third of the shul. I don't know if I'm exact. A third of the shul are Kohanim. Crazy amount of Kohanim there.
It's disproportionately.
They all want to be Kohanim. Wow. A Sephardi Baal Tshuva comes in, he says, I want to be Yisrael. I asked my father where Yisraelim, because he gets an Aliyah, no Shiloh. Wow, it's unbelievable. It's all Sephardi, we say. It's not just in deal. Okay.
You didn't say the mice of it.
With what?
The person that wanted to become a Kohen.
That's an old one.
Well, with the rabbi? I just said it 2 weeks ago. When you're in America and you're spacing out. Yeah, it's old one. Who said it's old one? What's the story?
The guy comes and says, I'm going to be a Kohen, I'll pay $1,000 a Kohen.
No. Oh, that one, my father? What do you want? Oh, that one. Oh, that's the one, okay. I thought you were talking about the Rav, okay. I'll say that because I didn't say that one in a long time. A guy comes, he says he wants to be a Kohen. He keeps on going to the Rav, I want to be a Kohen, I want to be a Kohen. Finally the Rav says, why do you want to be a Kohen? He says, because my father's a Kohen, and my grandfather's a Kohen, my great-grandfather said, I also want to be a Kohen. Now, after we learned the Sugis and Yavamas, it's not so simple. Especially if a guy is not from, he comes from a non-from background, just because your father's a Kohen and your grandfather's a Kohen doesn't mean anything. You might be a Chalal, and chances are very, very high that you're a Chalal. Okay. Depends who the mother is. Depends if she went to college and this and that. And Chalalim are very, very shchiach. And if that's the case, you're not a Kohen. Forget about it. And you never will be a Kohen. Even though if your father, what? Yeah. Like my friend. We go back to that every single time. Okay. So again, what do you see from here? One aid is believed and trusted and has nemanos to make somebody else a Kohen. One aid. You don't need two. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, we're going to see 4 shittas in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ein malam lekuna al pi eid echad. One aid is not enough. Omar Rabbi Elazar, ein masa bevokim shesh oirim. When is one aid not enough? When people are contradicting and they're not happy with it. If a guy comes along and says, I'm a Kohen, nobody cares, nobody says anything, so it's another shita, third shita. Then you could use eid echad if nobody says anything. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer, Mishum Reb Shimon ben Azgan. Now, but it seems like if they testify about each other, then no, we're concerned about Goimlin collusion. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer, Mishum Reb Shimon ben Azgan, Malan lekuhuna al pi eid echad. This is a fourth shita. So what is he saying different than everybody else? So that we have to see. Says the Gemara Kol Hanin Lamali. Now, if you look at the chart, I don't know if it will help you or will help you, but we had a Mishnah in Daf Amud Beis. Sada zu shel avicha, a guy comes and he breaks the news. He says, you see this unbelievable building in Manhattan? This used to be owned by your father, but guess what? I bought it from him. So what's that called? Ha-pesha Sara pesha hitter. That's Mishnah number 1. Then we had a Mishnah in Amud Beis that if the Eidim come and testify, this is our signature, however, we were anusim. We were forced. Again, that's a case of apesha asar, apesha yitir. And finally, we had the other day, if a woman says on Daf Beis Amud Aleph, of 2 cases. If a woman says, I'm Eishes Ish, I used to be Eishes Ish, but today I'm divorced. Nobody knew she was married. Nobody knew she got divorced. That's Hapesha Asar, Hapesha Hitir. Another case in that Mishnah, if a woman says, I was captured, I was kidnapped, however, I'm tahar, nobody touched me, Hapesha Asar, Hapesha Hitir. Ask the Gemara, Kol Hani Lamali, why do you need all these cases, including our own Mishnah, which is not really Hapesha Asar, Hapesha Hitir, but it's a case of believing one person to testify. Kol Hani Lamali, Tzrichi. And you can leave that on for now. If you're going to say the first case of Rabbi Yeshua, which is Sadazu, the real estate case, Mishum the Ikidra Demamayna, scary word, a new word. I don't know if we had it yet in Shas. Drara Demamayna, Shas Katan. Drara Demamayna, Drara is like a shaychus, but it means there's a loss, there's a monetary loss. Mishum the Ikidra Demamayna. So there's a monetary loss. The guy himself who's testifying, he's saying, this piece of real estate used to be owned by your father. If he stops right there, what happens? He loses $10 million. Then he explains himself. Oh, but I bought it from him. So there's a monetary loss. But Eidim, the second case, the Mishnah Daf Yudches, they have no loss. In other words, maybe when the Eidim said the first part of their testimony, this is our handwriting, they meant to say it's their handwriting. They didn't think about Anus. And then later on, they changed their mind. If a guy is going to lose all this money, obviously the first part where he says, he meant to explain himself immediately. Even the first part, he meant that it's 100% his. I'm going to explain it in a second. But when Eidim say this is our signature, it doesn't mean necessarily that when they said those words, they meant to contradict themselves and do a pesha hitir. So, Kamash Malon, that even in such a case, we say a pesha asa, a pesha hitir. Aval Eidim deleka drarid amayna. There's no monetary loss. And if it would just say the second Mishnah, Mishum de la Alma, Eidim come and testify for somebody else, not for themselves. So if it's not for themselves, we can believe them. Why not? But when you testify about yourself, about a field, about a piece of real estate, we can't trust them maybe. Top of Chavdal and and if I say the first two cases, the blue and the red, the sud and the Eidim, Mishum de Mamayna. The Isuras have need a third Mishnah to talk about Eishasish when it has to be with this sir. Maybe we don't see the idea of Hapesha Asar, Hapesha Hitir. She said that she used to be married. Mechatesa, I can believe her that she's divorced. It's an Isser Veishasish. Maybe in Isurim we don't trust the person. Maybe we don't say Kamash Malon, and even when it comes to Eishasish, it's Hapesha Asar, Hapesha Hitir. So the question is, so why do I need the fourth part of the Mishnah? Why do I need the case of I was kidnapped, but I'm tahar to a kohen? Because if we have in this thing in the blue, if she got married when she was able to get married, she says she's tahar. There's no way then that testified contrary to that. So she got married. And after she got married, or even we said, forget that got married. If she got the psak halacha that she could get married, that's it. Even if Eidim come afterwards, we don't care. So that's what I need the chiddush. I need the chiddush for the blue box. To tell me that once you have a psak, which is tremendous chiddush, she got married, she doesn't have to leave her husband. Says the Gemara, now if you look at this chart, you'll recall, on my screen it's gray. The safe is gray. I don't know what it's showing, some sort of red over there. Okay. What? Look at the color compared to what's on the screen. Something with the cable. Okay. So the Reisha is, I said I used to be Eishasish, but now I'm divorced. The safe is I was captured, but I'm tar. So we had a shaila, remember we had a sugya. This blue box, what does it go on? Does it go on the black or does it go on the gray or the pink, whatever it is over there? It's gray, okay. That's gray?
That one's great. Look at that one.
Not really. Okay. We'll talk about the gray later.
It's like that dress.
Oh, yeah. That's great if this big chiddush in blue is on the gray, on the kidnapped woman. On the left side. If this whole chiddush is on the Ishasish, we already discussed is a big chiddush. Isurim versus Mammon. You don't need another chiddush. So, then why does it say a case of nishbesi? You're right. When it comes to one captured woman, there's no chiddush at all. But there's another Mishnah that talks about two women that were captured, and each one testified about the other one. Why do I need that case? So now, Baruch Hashem, we know what goimlim is. Goimlim is collusion. People are very tricky. They'll say, I'll give edus on you, pretend that I'm no good, we'll have a case, an even better case soon. And in return, you're going to turn around and testify on me that I wasn't nitma. I'm going to testify on my friend that nobody had relations, and she's going to testify on me. And I'm tar. Okay, so now finally, our Mishnah. Why do I need a case of kahuna? I'll testify myself that I'm a kohen, you'll testify yourself, or I'll testify for you, you'll testify on me. Because of the Mishnah, we have a machlokes, 4 shittas actually. Could you become a kohen based on the testimony of an eid echad? Tana Rabbanan. Ani kohen v'chaveri kohen. They testify about themselves. Myself and my friend. My friend is also a kohen. Neman lahachiloi betruma. We're not concerned about goimlin. We're not concerned that he's tricking over here. There's 2 friends. So he could feed his friend truma. Now truma is truma d'oraisa d'Rabbanan. Well, truma is in the Torah, obviously. So there's certain times in history that was definitely d'oraisa. So what about it nowadays? So that's machlokes. We'll see. But for him to marry a isha miyucheses, says Rashi, a woman that has zchus, not so fast. We had something like that yesterday because a bas kohen, a daughter of a kohen, should not marry Yisrael. Today might be whatever. We're all not. But in those days, they were very careful. If I'm a daughter of a kohen, I have to marry a kohen. Could this guy, who I don't know where he came from, he just showed up, Shalom Aleichem, I'm a kohen. We have a guy here in the shir, he's not here today. He decided 2-3 years ago, he's a Levi. What happened? Yeah, I saw a caver, he's a Levi, Shalom Aleichem. He's in his 50s, he became a Levi. Happens. People started, could he marry a miyuchas? Not, I don't know. At least they give him aliyah once in a while.
We don't have a lady.
What?
We don't have a lady.
We have plenty. No. Gershon is the Gabba and he gives him an aliyah, yeah. Actually, don't worry. He knows about it. We talk about it all the time. So, for yichos, not so fast. For truma, 1 person is enough. What do you need for yichos? Actually, you shloisha, you need 3. Shnayim midim al zeh, ushnayim midim al zeh. So I did a little graphic here, so you can see. You need 3, because each person gets testimony from 2. You see? Yossi Klein on top has the dentist and Avi Kamiansky's twin testifying for him. That is his twin. It's him, actually. Okay, and the same thing. And then the Yossi Klein does testimony for the dentist and... now, what happened here? Oh, yeah. Red and... whatever. Yeah. Red and red. red and red, and then green and green for kids. Okay, everything's good. So that's why you need 3. 3 because then 2 do on each one. Rabbi Yehuda says even for truma you need this chart right over here. Okay, so we have machlokes. Truma is 1 enough, or you need 2? Yuchsin, you definitely need 2. Says the Gemara, Lemeimra, the Refuah Shlaima. It seems over here the Refuah is concerned. Why do you need 3 people? Because when you have 3, there's no collusion. Collusion is between 2 people. 3, it's harder to do collusion. So you see the Refuah says you need 3 even in Truma because he's concerned about Goimlin. He's concerned of collusion. So remember, Rabbi Yehuda is concerned for Goimlin. Rabbanan are not concerned. But we learned the exact opposite. This nan hachamorim shenichnesu le'ir. You have, here's a guy with tchelas. This is the whole thing. MDY cap. He comes into the city with a bunch of grain. And what does he do? Now we're not talking about chadash, which by the way, I gotta say this. A guy came over to me. He's not here tonight because he's in America. I hope he's not listening. He said, I'm going to America. I'm going to eat chadash, and I'm going to eat chadash on purpose. I'm like, we discussed this, that it might be Yisra Deraisa. No, I asked my Rav, and my Rav said that it's not just the Bach who's the only mater. There's somebody that had a dream, and they told him in a dream that it's mutter. Like, so you're going to maybe be over Yisra, I promise you. You might be over Yisra Deraisa and do it on purpose. You're going to America to eat chadash because of a dream. Yes, my Rav said, and I'm like, okay.
Like might be watching live.
There you go, Yosef. He said it sounds like a guy that might be watching live. He's in America now. Okay. His Rav said. What? There's no. He's going to look for it. He's going to search high and low for a problem with chadash. Hareini Yoichel, just Lahoitzi Milei Ben Rus. Okay. Anyways, Chadash means the new grain before Pesach, and it used to be a thing in America. It's a big problem to be careful with it. Back in the day, there was soymach on the Bach, but most Achronim hold that it's a big problem. Even Bizman Hazeh, it could be a Issa D'Oraisa. Obviously, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when they had the Mizbeach and everything, it was definitely a Seder Reis. The question is today, Bizman Hazeh and a Chutz La'aretz. And most paskin that it is a big problem. Okay, besides those who have dreams and the Bach. Fine. No, there might be other Aruch HaShulchan. There are, but it just seems that the majority holds a massive issue. So why not be careful? Careful about everything else. Be careful with this. Fine. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about Chadash. Fresh grain. Now, when you're selling grain, what do you want to sell? You want to sell fresh that you just cut yesterday, or something that sat in the storage for a month or 2? The old stuff, because it's whatever. You need dry grain in order to make flour. So what is he saying? He's a big tzaddik, this guy. My friend, his stuff is perfect. His stuff is old, and also Trumas and Meisers. Here's the thing of Trumas and Meisers. When you have crop, when you have grain, you have to give 2% to the Kohen and 10% to the Levi. My friend, I can testify, he took care of it. What's he trying to do here? This is collusion at its best. Why? Because if he's selling grain, so why is he telling everybody, my grain is terrible? I got the new stuff that you can't even make flour out of it. Oh, my friend, he has good stuff. Anybody that's selling something is not going to be talking like that. No, my money is pretty good. So there's a big chash of collusion. Of Goimlin. So mine is the good, is the terrible stuff. It's new. Another problem. Mine is terrible. I didn't take Trumas and Meisres. But his is perfect. Because we're concerned about Goimlin. Now, why are we concerned about Goimlin? Because who are these guys? Look, here. Who is a typical donkey driver? A chamarim? An amaretz. So we got to be concerned. It used to be that truck drivers, you wanted to say, oh, guy's an amaretz, a truck driver. Now, Happens to be, I read a couple of emails from truck drivers that do the daf. They have 18 hours on the road, 8 hours a day. They're listening to shiurim. Then no longer amaratzim anymore. The new truck driver, the new age truck driver is a big Talmud Chacham. Hachamarim though, those are amaratzim. Rabbi Yehuda says, I'm not concerned. So what does Rabbi Yehuda say? I'm not concerned about goyimlim. I'm not concerned with the collusion. A second ago we said that Rabbi Yehuda is concerned for collusion. We're concerned about goyimlim. So what do? It's a contradiction. It's actually two contradictions. It's on Rabbanan also. Rabbanan over here say, I'm concerned with goyimlim. And by us, they say, we're not concerned. So which one is it? The Brisa, this Brisa of Chamarin is reversed. Rabbi Yehuda is the one that's concerned, and Chacham are not. Abai says, don't flip it. There's a special kula when it comes to Demai. What's Demai? Do-mai. What is this? When you buy something around Ma'aretz, you don't know 100% if he took Trumas and Mais versus didn't take Trumas and Mais. We have to be concerned, and we say he didn't, and you go home and you take a little bit Trumas and Mais. But they were Mekel. Now, why are they Mekel? The Rambam says because we want these Amaratzim to come into our cities. If we start being mean to them and say, oh, yeah, did you take Truma? You didn't take, then they're going to stop coming. We need food. So we're Mekel. And by the way, the Gemara always tells us that Ame'aretz, they usually do take Ma'aser. For the few that don't, that's why we're makbid. Omer Rava, the review the Kashya, the Rabbanan Loi Kashya. You asked me a question as if the only problem is Rabbi Yehuda. That's how you asked the question. Where does it say it over there? L'meimra, the review the Chash the Goyim, Rabbanan Loi Chash the Goyim. Okay. The question is on everybody. Says the Gemara, Elo, the review Loi Kashya, the Shanina. We explained Rabbi Yehuda because Dmai, they were Mekel. The Rabbanan like Kashya. Why is it not a question on Rabbanan? On the one hand, they say that we're not Choshesh for Goyimlim by us, and then they say we are Choshesh for Goyimlim. Which one is it? When he comes with his Kalim, I want to show you a picture of ADD. Oh, this is our famous Amoritz picture. But when I was learning this Gemara, I was saying to myself, I have to find a picture of when I was a child in Bnei Brak. I lived in Bnei Brak for 3 years. And as an American kid, I was fascinated. They would come with a horse and buggy and sell watermelon. I don't know if anybody remembers it. You remember? Avateach al sakin, avateach al sakin. They used to scream. And he had a scale there. And with the weights, they put a couple of weights. Who knows what those weights had in there? Probably lead. Those guys were not the nicest, best guys. So I was like, oh, I need a show. I need a picture with the watermelon with the weights. On the way here, I'm like, wait a minute, I got the watermelon with the horse. There's no shaykhs to the sugya at all. I don't have the weights. They're in there somewhere, I guess. Okay. Fine. By the way, I think this is a picture in Detroit. I don't know what he's doing in Detroit and why they have a horse. The buildings are shuttered up. You can see on the side, Givaldic. Makes sense, it's Detroit. Fine. That's what it was back in the day. No, I'm serious. I don't know. It could be now. I heard things changed over there a little bit. Yeah? They were like, they're going to shut down the whole city when Ford and everything is like a disaster over there. Akoponim. Listen to this. A guy comes with his wheat, right? The chamor comes with his wheat. In addition to his wheat, he comes with whatever he comes, with the stick that smooths out the wheat, with the scale, whatever it is. So what do you know? What do you see? You see he's here to sell. He's here to sell. So why is he saying that his grain is terrible? If he's putting it in storage, my grain is terrible, it'll be good in 2 months from now, but I'm on my way to storage. But he's coming with a scale. He's coming with his bags. He's trying to sell stuff. Obviously he's lying. Obviously there's collusion going on over here. Says the Gemara, the Rabbi Chama Barukva, where do we see this idea of Kleum Nosoi? That is a concept. You could see if he has his whatever sellers have. The Rabbi Chama Barukva, all this not. Hakador Kadar is a person that sells pottery. Now, we're talking about a kadar that's a chaver. What's a chaver? A person who's careful with his trumas, with taharis. He eats everything on taharis HaKodesh. He's makbid that everything he touches, he's always tahar. Everything he eats, even if it's chulin, even if it's regular fruit, not trumas, everything, not kachim, everything has to be tahar. That's a chaver. So, his pottery here, you see his pottery? He's selling pottery. His pottery is tahar. Right off the bat, it's tahar. Now, he's selling pottery. He's in the sun all day. He needs to get a drink. So he says, I'll be back in 5 minutes. He puts a sign and he goes down to the river to drink. Now, what happened to his pottery? While he's gone, who touched what? What's going on here? Pnimiyos, you see with the green arrows, those are the ones further away from the street. So it's unlikely that somebody reached over and touched his pottery. Somebody that's tamei reached his pottery. But the outer ones, the ones that are by the street, that makes sense that somebody went by. He wasn't watching it carefully. He went to take a drink. He went to the bathroom break. Somebody must have touched it. And Memela, we have to say that the outer ones are tamei. When I lived in Bnei Brak, again, another story from Bnei Brak, I saw with my own eyes a sign in a bakery that said, Kan lo mochrim etrogim, mochrim lechem. Because it's a minhag here in Eretz Yisrael that you go, you grab a bread, you go, sometimes I go crazy. A guy takes the bread and he puts it on the conveyor belt. You know, milk spilled there, the juices from the chicken come out, he puts it on the conveyor belt. You know, without a bag. Unbelievable. But it's a thing. You go, we don't sell, we're not selling Yisraelim. Stop touching the breads. Fine. There's a guy, I have to tell you this more, I said this before, but it's a beautiful piece from the Chafetz Chaim. A baker came to the Chafetz Chaim and he said, Rebbe, well, it wasn't the baker. A guy comes to the Chafetz Chaim and says, I don't know how to do mitzvahs. It says in the Zohar you have to do b'dechidu, b'rechimu, you have to do kavanas and everything. I can't, it's not for me, mitzvahs. I don't have such good kavana. So Chafetz Chaim told him, let me tell you a mashal. Said there's a baker that came and he said, I don't have parnasa. People come, they touch the bread, they said, this is too soft, this is too hard, this is old, this is this, that. I make all this bread, they barely buy what I make. And then came the war. And during the war, there's no shilas. Whatever is available, people are shopping. He's making a fortune. Whatever he makes, it's sold automatically. So he tells this guy, our generation, and that's then, today's, we're in war. We're in war. Whatever you give, whatever you do, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chaps it. Any mitzvah you do is beautiful. Forget the kavanas, whatever you can do. You have a half a kavana, you have a full kavana, Hashem is grabbing all our mitzvahs. It used to be back in the day when we lived in the Beis Hamikdash, and there was a mizbeach, and people had korbanos, and everybody had ruach hakodesh. They're on the whole level. So and then you have to. If it wasn't perfect, Hashem. Okay, but today, everything Hashem is chapping. All right. Sponsors. Chav Dalan on the Beis, sponsored by Moshie Horn in honor of Zach, the Rocklin, and Lenny Lerner, CPA, and by Yankel Cohen, the official MDY MSP, and Hudi Newman. Eli, explain the new guy. This is all inside jokes. He shouldn't take anything from this. Hudi Newman, in honor of Reb Eli, the real greatest Jewish basketball player who ever lived. What? That's what?
That's more of a joke.
It is a joke. Yeah. Yosef also. There's a bunch of people that know it's a joke. Okay, I have to tell them every single time I say it. Sheker, joke, fine. But you know what? Like the Chafetz Chaim said, like they said about the Chafetz Chaim, whether it's true or not, but they don't say the stories about me and you. Oh. Joke, not joke. But they're not saying it about, okay, fine. Zok the Gemara. So now we're going back to this pottery, right? We have the pnimi, the ones that are further away from the street, they're not tummy, the ones close to the street, tummy. What do we do? All the potteries, tummy, when he steps away for a minute, it all becomes tummy. Oh, here's the yisoid. If there's a pile of pottery on the street and I walk by, I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody stored it there for a minute. I don't know. But if I see that he has the boxes and the foam and he's ready to pack it and he's trying to sell it, so there's a seller somewhere. He went to get a drink. I'm going to start touching everything. He wants me to touch it. He wants me to see if I want to buy it. So here we see the idea of when his tools are with him, that is a raya, it's a simon that he's selling. Over here, we see it at the pottery, and we're going to bring that same idea to us. If kleyum nasai biyadai, then what? Where were we? Then when he comes with the grain, and he has his tools, then obviously he wants to sell it, and therefore there's collusion. Says the Gemara, on the one hand, it says everything is tamei, his tools are there. But what about, it says in another brisa, everything is tar? So it depends. If he has the tools, then everything's tamei. People climb over everything, they try to get to the back one and touching everything. If there's no tools, everybody's going to be careful about gneva. There's no reason for me to touch somebody's pottery. It's not for sale. But the problem is, what about this picture? How come half and half? All of it is tamei I get. All of it is tar I get. How do you have a case of half and half? It's very close to Reshus Harabim. Here's a little bit of a picture that I found in Erevin, and it reminds me that unfortunately nobody came forward about Yavamis. But Erevin, Eli Dykman said that it was his easiest Masechta. He's so scared of Erevin because everybody says that by Erevin you fall out of the daf, you do bracha. Erevin for sure you fall out. Erevin was the easiest because we had all these beautiful pictures. Halavai, someone should come forward and say, "Oh, Yavamis, I was scared of Yavamis." Fine, but this is Chifufei. These are buffers to Reshus Harabim. You see, there's a Reshus Harabim. There's a street there, and they built these brick walls, whatever it is, some stone, so that the traffic doesn't come into the private domain. Now, he's selling his pottery, and he puts his pottery like in between these beams. So it's not so much, we're concerned that somebody walking by, like this guy, you see this guy over here? He might be an Amoritz, and Amoritz, his clothing are tamei. What happened? The Gaivid was nifter. Wow, Baruch Dynamis. But that's what it is. The Gaivid was nifter. They're announcing his Levaya. What's tonight? Baruch Dynamis. His neshama should have an aliyah. Okay. No, whoever doesn't understand, I don't know if they could hear, but there's on the speaker phones outside screaming something. We don't hear exactly, but I thought it may be shtick. Somebody's coming in with shtick here. Okay. Now, we're concerned that the clothing of the Amoritz, which are tamei, are going to create tumah over here. Says the Gemara, there's another question here, a different problem, not a shaila of whether there's collusion or not collusion. Just a shaila, is one aid enough to testify that a kohen could eat truma? Why? You hear this, and this is going to be a sugya. Avi, you're going to miss this. You're going to be on your phone. You're going to miss this. You're going to have charata. If a kohen eats truma, it's like similar. If a guy gets an aliyah every time you come to shul, this guy is getting kohen. So you could assume from that he's a real kohen, and you're going to marry his kid. Same thing with truma, and the Gemara is going to talk about it. If you see a guy duchening, doesn't mean that he's a real kohen. Do we know for a fact? So one aid is not enough to say that a guy could eat truma. You know why? Because it's not just truma. Based on the truma, people are going to marry into his family. Yuchsin, another daughter of a kohen might marry him. So for that you need two aidim. That's the machlokes. Is one enough, or you need two? Ibaylu. Now we know this. Mahu lahalois mishtorois liyuchsin. What if I see in a star, I see the word Kohen? Does that mean that he's a Kohen? Listen to this. I once heard that they were interviewing a Russian to see if he's Jewish. He came off the boat. Remember when all the Russians were coming into Israel? So they started interviewing. He said, "What are you? Are you Jewish?" Yeah, I speak Yiddish. No. So he said, he said that he remembers his mother always buying his father a brand new pair of socks for Yantif. And they paskin, I'm not a Rav, and I'm not saying this as a psak, it's just a mice I heard. Obviously, if this is something that's neged to you, ask your local rabbi. They paskin what? That he's a Kohen. Based on the socks, they decided he's a Kohen. From a Maisa, because it's Masich Levitumah, we're going to say this. He said a Maisa, and from the Maisa they understood. Why would his mother buy socks? They didn't want him to go barefoot to the Duchen. They bought him socks. What are you tying on, Rabbi Schoenberg? You ever heard this Maisa? Never heard it. Yeah, MDY socks. Yeah. Hey Chidami. Now, where exactly in the star is it brought down that the guy's a Kohen? If it says I'm a Kohen, like in the bottom of a Kesubos it says Kohen. So Manko Masa de Lovei. It just says that he's a Kohen. He wrote about himself. Nobody testified that he's a Kohen. That's not a good raya. It says in the star that Reuven the Kohen borrowed from Shimon a non-Kohen. And on that, Eidim testified. What's hatzlacha? Are they testifying just to what happened in the star, that there was a loan here that happened for 100? Now, I read this, and I didn't know it's flying. A lot of people sign names on the star, and they're signing that somebody borrowed $100. They're going to sign the zchus of the person? It's very interesting. Last night, coming out of shul, Tzvi Adler, who was part of the shir, told me a maisa, nothing to do with this Gemara. He said he's throwing out maisas one after another. He usually does. And he said this maisa. He said, a guy came to the Brisker Rav and asked the Brisker Rav for an askama for a sefer. So the Brisker Rav told him, I already gave you askama. He says, when? No, this is my first sefer. So I already gave you. Remember, 5 years ago, a guy brought me a sefer, this and the sefer, and you had a letter that he printed from you in the back of the sefer. And if I gave askama on the whole sefer, I already saw your letter, you're a good guy, I gave you askama. So I said, Mardik, now this is just explained to me, this Gemara. Here's the Brisker Rav. He didn't just give, he read every single word, and he's giving askama even on a letter that's brought in a sefer. So it's the whole thing. Over here also. It's like a shtickle pshat, no? I'm signing my name, but I have to read everything. It says the word Kohen. Let me make sure he's a Kohen. But not everybody's the Brisker Rav. Not everybody goes through it. Most people don't care about that stuff. So that's goof what it says here. Since I could hear, since most people don't look at every word, they just sign on the bottom over there. So you can't go up. But one of them says, either Ravuna or Rav Chizda, one says you could bring a right. If you see somebody duchening, but we have to stick in a little bit of a knetch here, you're going to need, in order to go up and do Birkus Kohanim, we call it duchening, what do you guys call it? Nesius Kapayim, Birkus Kohanim, duchening, whatever you want to call it. You're going to need 2 Eidim for that. Because if I allow you to duchen in my shul, Birkus Kohanim in my shul, somebody's going to come marry you. So you can't come here without 2 Eidim. I need 2 Eidim. I have to make sure that you're the real deal. Interesting Shiloh that I remember from Rav Zilberstein. Don't quote me on this, but there was a guy who said that when he went to Rabbi Vadia Yosef, he wanted to kiss Rabbi Vadia, and they said, no, you can't kiss him right now. Then he noticed that all the Kohanim, they come up there and they kiss him and everything's fine. I don't know, maybe because they wash their hands. I don't know exactly the details. Kohanim he allowed, Yisraelim not. So he faked it. He pretended he's a Kohen. So he asked Rav Zilberstein, is that okay? So for some reason, again, don't quote me on this, some reason Rav Zilberstein said, Al Gnevas Das, it's not a problem. For whatever reason. I don't know why. But on the problem of malim likahuna is a problem. Because now everybody's going to think that you're a real kohen. You went and you duchen, and based on that, they're going to. That's the problem. That's what he said. Okay. Zog the Gemara.
So what advice that never happened is classic.
He's reading this Gemara. No, that one's hard to make. No, that one is. How did he come to her? No, that one is that's a real ma'isa. Okay, sorry. So could I prove from the fact that a kohen gets up there and he does birkas kahanim that he's a kohen for yichus? This question is good whether you hold that you could prove yuchsin from the fact that a kohen eats truma, and whether you hold you can't prove. It's still a question. Because, in other words, birkas kahanim is different than truma. There's a reason it's more chamer, there's a reason it's more kal. So don't prove anything from truma. Why? It says, no, this is not it. The Gemara darshans that if you eat truma, you die. A non-kohen who eats truma gets misa b'dei shomayim. So, since it's so chamor, you're going to need two eidim. Aval nesius kapayim, this I say loy. Here, this dabe al aron vel bon of lema koisev Baruch Hu is b'nei Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a tzivui to the kohanim to bench klal Yisrael. Yirach Hashem yishmerecha. By the way, I found this fascinating, also a shocker to me. But again, it's a machlokes. There's a lot of achronim who say this way and this way. So I'm not paskening, but I never knew that's an issue. Can a Yisrael look at another Yisrael? No, I want to give you a bracha. So everybody does it Friday night, yeah? Shouldn't be brought. Some achronim hold it's a major problem. That it's a koisev Baruch Hu, Yivarech Hashem Yishmerecha, are psukim given only to kohanim, not Yisraelim. You heard about this, Rabbi Cohen? He says you heard about it. What? You should do it with one hand, not with both hands. Okay. A lot of people go two hands.
So Ramon said you should sing it, like you do a tune for it. Something to differentiate it so that you're
so Rabbi Tzaddikim of RL said he was the editor of all of Art School Shas, the main editor. He was the Rav up the block here. Unbelievable Talmud Chacham, died way too young. He said that according to Lauren Spiegelman, you should sing it, you should do it in a way that you can differentiate. But I'm saying people were moyer at this already. It's an issue. Maybe it's better to stay away from those psukim after you see the achrayim and the different things. But sir, don't go like this. Here, nu chiddush. Don't put your two hands on that. That's what I do. What? At least not like this. Yeah. Okay. Fine. That's your. I by mistake looked at the camera. Sorry, I apologize.
You just smile at the same time.
I find this I say loy. Anyways, there's a difference here between a misa and not misa. Is a commandment, a positive. You should do it. In other words, if Yisrael does it, he's not over in a lois say, he's over in a say. Okay. And also we have a question. According to Mandama, it says that you cannot do anything for yichus. You can't say, oh, you could marry into this family because they eat truma. Where do people eat usually? In their dining room. Nobody sees them. A guy shows up in front of the whole shul. To do that, you have to have a lot of chutzpah if you're not a kohen. People are going to start saying, hey, what are you doing? That's like my old story that I said 2 weeks ago. The guy said, what are you doing here? I know you're from Europe. You're not a kohen. He goes, I know you from Europe. You're not a rav. Okay, fine. I said it 2 weeks ago. What are you guys laughing? Oh my gosh. Okay. I said it slow last time, nobody laughed. This time I said it quick, in 10 seconds, boom. To get up in front of the whole shul and do it, and you have to know the I'll tell you my old ma'isa about this. I have to say this every time I say duchening. Yehuda Freilich told me this. On Yom Kippur, he used to do a massive thing for the Chilonim in Chicago. He brought them all together. He says, "Any kohanim here? Yeah. You ever duchen? No." He says, "Listen, it's very simple. You go like this. Now, I'm going to say the words. You repeat after me every word for word. And then when we get to this, you have to turn around." So he says, "Okay, fine." Asher kiddushanu b'kedushato shel Aharon. He says, "Achshav kulam nistovev," and they all say together, "Achshav kulam nistovev." Okay, if you don't understand Hebrew, it's not funny. He told them in Hebrew, everybody turn around, and they all repeated after him. Everybody turn around. Okay, great. But I'm saying, if you're not a Kohen, you don't know how to say B'Kedushasai. It's a very hard word. Anyway, and to go like this, and when do you go right and left, and when do you go up and down, I still don't know how the Yom is there. Fine. I guess if a guy really wants that Aliyah Kohen really badly, he studies it well, and then he comes into Shul and he says, fine. Maybe there's no difference. Can I prove that a person is a Kohen based on his Birkas Kehanim? Machlokes. Who? Rav Chizda and Rav Avina. Only Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak l'Rava. Now, two Amoraim in later generation are discussing this. Our question: can you prove that somebody's a Kohen based that he did duchen? It's machlokes. It's machlokes here. We just said Rav Chizda and Ravina here. It's machlokes Rav Chizda and Ravina. But I'm not asking that's machlokes. I know that. But what should we do? How do we pass it? I know a brisa. I could prove something from a brisa. This anya. Chazaka, the status quo is very, very powerful. What does that mean? It's very powerful. We're going to base things on the status quo and what the situation is right now. Bezdin don't have the right to change one way or the other. Shenemar ubnei kohanim bnei Chavia bnei Akoitz. Long pasuk over here. The kohanim, the sons of Chavia bnei Akoitz bnei Barzilai. Why are they called the sons of Barzilai? Asher lokach bnei Barzilai. Because they married into Barzilai. Hagiladi. Isha, Vaikarei al Shmam. Okay, and they were called Barzilai on the names of their wives. Eile Bikshuk Savam Hamisyachasim. Interesting, with a sin. They wanted to see a Ksav. Now, explains Rashi. What's going on? They were in Galus, and they came back, Ezra brought back 40,000 plus with them. Teretz Yisrael, not everybody wanted to go up there. Teretz Yisrael. But when they were in Galus, when they were in Chutz La'aretz, they married, says Rashi, they married Goyim. Married Goyim. Now they want to come back to Eretz Yisrael and they want to start duchening and they want to start doing Avodah Beis HaMikdash. Who are you? We don't know if you're a Kohanim anymore. Forget about an hour generation, 1,500 years later. Talking about then, we don't know a Kohen is a Kohen. So you need to prove that you're a Kohen. Prove your star. So, Bikshuk Savichos. Now, the Chazon Ish addresses a question that some Achronim have, and that is, if they married Goyim, Rashi says, they married Goyim, then the Chalalim. If they married Goyim, you're not a Chalal. If you married a Goy, then your kid is a Goy. Not a Chalal. Look at Rashi. Rashi says the Chalalim. So the Chazon Ish answers, they didn't marry Goyim. They married ex-Goyim. Goyim that became Geirim. But a Kohen is not allowed to marry a Geiris. So that makes the kid a Chalal. Okay. V'lo nimtzu. They couldn't come up with any documentation to prove that they're Kohanim. Vayigoyalu. They became pasul. Minakuna. They said, if you don't have proof, you're not a Kohen. Vayomer hatirshasa. Hatirshasa. Who's hatirshasa? Nehemiah. Nehemiah is called hatirshasa because he was hired by the king to be the Sara Mashkim, to pour the wine for the king, and the king forced him to drink from every cup that he poured to make sure it's not poisoned. But there's an isser to drink yenam, stam yenam. Forget Yain Nesach. Stam yenam is asur. So Chachamim gave him a heter. Hater shasa. I'm giving you a heter to drink. So that's Nehemiah. Hater shasa asher lo yoichlu mikodesh hakadoshim. Said Nehemiah, you cannot eat from kodesh hakadoshim. Can't eat kachim. Ad amoid koin l'urim v'tumim. Urim v'tumim is this the breastplate that the kohen gadol used to wear. And I made a mistake last time, Levi. What was the thing? When they used to ask him a question, they had a piece of cloth behind with Shem Shem. They would ask the Urim Tumim and it would light up. And as you see here, I don't know if you could see, but it has different Aleph, a Beis, Gimel, and whatever lit up, they would be able to see what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted. So basically, Nehemiah told them, Rashi explains, wait until Mashiach comes. We don't have Urim Tumim anymore. Bai Sheni doesn't have Urim Tumim. You're stuck. You're not Kohanim anymore. Okay. So, he said, what's Kodesh HaKadoshim? Kodesh HaKadoshim is meat that comes off a carbon, kachim. But truma they could eat. Why could you eat truma? Because of chazaka. So over here you see the idea that is chazaka. G'doyle chazaka. Chazaka is powerful. That if they were eating truma in Bavel, so they could eat truma also over here. What did you eat when you're in Golos? Now, if you can, just look at Rashi for a second. It's all over the place. I want to point out a bunch of Rashis here. Says Rashi, L'shar is bebinyan sheni. I'm just pointing this out because we're here, sitting here in the 9 days, the Golos, and the talking about the Beis HaMikdash over and over. Kachim, Rashi says, Achiyavi Mashiach, B'mikdash Sheni, Mikotche HaMikdash, Chutz HaMikdash, a lot to do with Beis HaMikdash. B'kotche HaGvul. So what did you eat? Kotche HaGvul means Truma. Afkan, B'kotche HaGvul. Says the Gemara, I'll prove it to you. If you could become a Kohen based on your duchening, on your birkas kehanim. Now, I'm assuming you were eating truma in Bavel. You're also duchening in Bavel. You're doing everything. It's one of the same. So, Hanik, even the Parsi Yadayu, since you did birkas kehanim in Chutz La'aretz, Asilat Sukinu, you're going to continue doing birkas kehanim in Eretz Yisrael when you came up with Ezra, and you're going to continue eating truma. So people are going to think you're the real deal, you're Kohanim. Says Gemara, the real Chazkayu. No, people know there's a problem with you. Why? Every Kohen in the world gets to eat from the Korbanos. Everybody knows, Mishpachas Cohen from Bet Shemesh, they don't eat kachim. Something's wrong with them. They duchen, they eat truma? No, there's some serious issues. Look into it. I don't know what. Big issues. Kohanim know what's going on. They know that this family is not eating kachim. So it's a reyusa in the chazaka. There's something weak about the chazaka. What about those who say that you could marry into a Kohen's family and know that he's a real Kohen based on his fact that he just eats a little truma? We'll stop right over here. You see that we're talking about a chazaka that's weakened. Have a wonderful week, a wonderful evening. Yishkoyach to all the guests. Shalom Aleichem. Yishkoyach for coming. Chaval that your father. Bring him tomorrow morning. He's going to be here.